This time on Road and Race, I treat the rust on my 350Z and go from this to this.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Road and Race. This is part 2 in my series of treating the rust on my 350Z. In my previous video, I stripped down the entire underside of my Z so I could start to get good access to the chassis to treat the rust. I also went through every part to see what condition it was in and to see if it was repairable. In this video, I'm going to be treating the rust on the car and preventing it from coming back. Here's a closer look at the rust on the underside of my chassis. As you can see, it's here at the back, along the sills, in the middle, at the front, and at both the front and rear wheel arches. Here's a close-up of one part, the front chassis brace. As you can see, it is not looking too good. Luckily, I think I've got here just in time. As you probably saw in the previous video, the metal is still solid and the rust hasn't gone too far. So how do we treat all this rust? Well, I've got the car restoration kit from Rustbuster, which consists of 4 stages. Degrease. This gets rid of surface oils and dirt. Desalt. This lifts the salts from the metal, like the rock salt used on our roads in the winter. This is often a forgotten step because it really does help stop the rust coming back. Remove the rust. Loose rust should be removed with grinding or sanding. Then a rust converter turns the remaining rust into solid metal. Then, to protect the metal and prevent rust coming back, there's a thick epoxy mastic paint. This kit to do a whole car is £96. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to restore rusty parts on your car, like this chassis brace, to go from this to this, and also how to treat the rust on the underside of your chassis to go from this to this.
So let's start this process by tackling this chassis brace. The first step is to degrease it. We'll be using Tank Clean. It can be diluted down 4 parts to 1 with normal water. Here's an overview of the underside of the car we need to degrease. Next up, we'll be removing the salts by using Chlorex. For the sake of repetition, I won't show me going around and desalting the entire car, but you get the idea. And then a quick rinse with water. Next up, it's removing any loose rust. So here I have a couple of brush attachments for a drill and a flap disc with 40 grit sanding paper for a grinder. And now using FE123 will convert any remaining rust back into metal. Now it's time to mix up the paint. First give both tins a stir. And then you want to mix the same amount of part A and part B together. And then if you like, you can add some thinner, up to 10%. Here's the chassis brace, all painted up. Although not necessary, if you want to, you can apply a top coat at this stage. So here's a quick summary of the before and afters.
Finally, after all that, you may find there's still some areas on your car that are rusty but are inaccessible. Rustbuster have a solution for this. It's called Corallan, and it's an underbody wax. It's a spray can with a long nozzle, so you can just insert it into hard to reach places and spray it straight onto rust. It then hermetically seals the surface, stopping any oxygen coming in contact with the metal. So I used it to protect the inside of my sills, inside the transmission brace, behind the fuel tank, inside the front subframe, and inside the chassis brace. So what's coming up in the next video then? Well, if you recall from the first video in this series, I took a number of rusty brackets and bolts off the car. I want to restore them and stop them from going rusty in the future, so I'm going to zinc plate them. I've got this kit from Classic Plating, and it allows you to go from this to this. To watch the next episode in this series, just click the box there. And as always, thanks for watching.